All right. Well, welcome everyone who's watching. My name is Marilyn Estrada, and this is Alex Crane, and we are going to be talking about our project for our 608 Applied Anthropology class. We are collaborating with the Princeton University and working alongside Dr. Caroline Rouse on political interests. So we each had to interview one interlocutor. That's how you say it, right? Because I always mess up on the name. Yeah.
I think
Okay.
you're good.
Thank you. And we're going to be talking about our experiences with the interview and the process on it and our ethnography and all the little details within.
Yeah, should be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, first and foremost, do you want to talk about what the project is about?
Yeah, so for those of you not in the know, uh the project is focused on the political interests of the American population and specifically any sort of logical reasons for why the population holds positions that they hold and identifying where that logic is inconsistent, where it breaks down, where, for instance, might even work counter to itself, as kind of a general exploration of the population at large, as Dr. Rouse has identified. Um, and I'm sure plenty of people have identified a number of characteristics that represent pretty splitting political views as they move farther and farther away from each other. And it's she's interested, and the study is interested in the development of those positions, how they form, why they form, etc.
Exactly. So we each had the opportunity to interview someone that we kind of know. And I was kind of afraid personally that that might have intervened or like impacted the data in some way because I do have a personal work relationship with mine. Um, but I also think that that made it more organic, like
Oh
your,
yeah, absolutely.
like, and then I also used I started off using formal language and then it ended because it was an hour and a half interview and then it
It
ended.
gets long.
Yeah. And then we started you know, dropping F-bombs here and there. So I was like, wait. But I did get a lot of data out of it. Did you find it to be impactful because you interviewed your friend, right?
Yeah. So part of the thing, right, was we were supposed to select people from all walks of life, because the project itself is interested in the entire population, and so I have a friend who, for me, sounded like a perfect addition. He's on SNAP benefits and is on um, government assistance, government assisted income. Um, and that he seemed like a perfect addition. And so he is a friend of mine, though. Uh, I've had political conversations with him in the past, which made me feel fairly confident that it wasn't going to be like alienating or make us uncomfortable. But it definitely started a little bit stiffer and then slowly became more, conversational, which I think is also kind of the goal. So, made
Absolutely.
him get comfortable, willing to talk about things, so that worked out. Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely shared a few laughs with mine. So that was really cool. But mine is also a parole officer and he's a security guard. So he is very well versed in regard to policy. And we got
Mm.
into a few policies and like policy reform. Specifically, there was like a homeless cleanup, right? And because one of the goals was to find the contradictions between what the personal values are and what the legislative needs are. And it honestly surprised me how he was aware that there were so many policies that needed reformation, right? They needed to be redone. And then he was like, no, but it's fine because it's not really that important. So one of the examples for mine was that the
Hmm.
homeless population, you know how they like do cleanups and like they take all the people and they move them. They don't really
Yeah,
like,
move them.
yeah, they either move them or give them a temporary home. And they did this with a Motel 6. And since he works with sex offenders have to register where they move every, I think it's 4 days or 4 weeks. I forgot exactly how much it was, but um,
Some number.
some number, yeah. One of the mayors didn't see that loophole or that gap. So a lot of sex offenders were moving into these motels where they're not allowed to stay because they're registered sex offenders.
Right.
Um, so technically he could have um like arrested them and thrown them back in jail because it's going against protocol, but at the same time, like he took it upon himself to be like, I'm not going to report them because that's not even their fault. It's
Mm.
the mayor's fault. So he looked at it as if it wasn't a big deal, right? And like he sees the issue and it is a legislative need, yet he finds it not as important as like transgenders' rights. Like he's very like, yeah. So I was very interested in like the different values in that
Huh.
aspect. Did you find any like policies that didn't really align or
So it was really interesting. His background is he's from a conservative Christian background, and has had a pretty noticeable shift away from that within his lifetime. But from that, he has a pretty strong concept of right and wrong, good or bad.
Mhm.
Um,
Same?
and it's very interesting because as uh, I noticed that he did not include his own family in the bad side of things, despite their previous takes that he no longer agrees with, and did say that he thinks people who hold those positions to be morally wrong. Um, and so I kind of pried into that a little bit near the end there, where I would ask him exactly what do you mean by bad? And if that's what you're saying, how does your parents not meet that criteria? So it's less about legislative inconsistencies and more inconsistencies in his willingness to apply the perception of this category of good and bad to his family, despite the fact that they meet a lot of the criteria that he himself had established for what makes somebody a bad person,
Hmm.
which was an interesting thing to dig into, especially considering so much of his political stances were backed up by the perception of good or right or wrong, which is interesting. It was definitely interesting. Um,
Yeah, definitely. I have the same situation with mine where like his family, untouchable. Like that isn't even, that's not something that's a variable supposedly
mm,
to like his beliefs, you know, he talked about his daughter a lot and how she is a pro golfer and she doesn't want,
yeah,
yeah, she doesn't want or he doesn't want a biological male to take her stance or like her position. That was the whole thing.
right.
Yet, like, I guess it was directly correlated in a way. And like, his personal values as to what he believes is a man and a woman directly impacted how he views sports, how he views the world. He also works
Mm.
in the sex, what's it called? The
Sex crime and all that, yeah.
sex crime and all that. And
Yeah.
he talked about how he's always on guard, like no matter where he's at. Even in our
Mm.
interview, there was a part where he was saying, like, even the way that I'm sitting right now, I'm uncomfortable because I should be facing the door. I should be facing the windows, not against it. So, although
Huh.
it seemed correlated to his family, it also seemed very personal to his job. I don't know if your friend also has a job that impacted his views.
So he can't work. According to the state government, he has disorders that would preclude him from holding a job,
Mm.
which is what gets him onto the SSI. So instead, he donates his time. So he volunteers at shelters and at like donation centers. And so that I first off, based on a lot of the morals that he expressed as being important to him, um, he heavily focused on a financial side of legislation that was overwhelmingly his biggest interests in terms of what he expressed as important. So wealth disparity, that sort of thing, very high on his list of uh, important concepts to think about. And so, to me, that was him really like putting the money where the mouth is, as it were, receiving money from the government, just do nothing. That is entirely within his options. But instead, he goes and volunteers, which indicates that it's not so much a an inability to work in a literal sense. It's the inability to hold a job within how the market works. And
Mm.
so rather than just deciding to do nothing, he still wants to give back and help on those financial things. So it's a clear through line with his behavior, which is interesting. He was exceedingly content. It took a lot of effort for me to prod at any sort of inconsistencies I could find. Again, the only real one that I could produce was how he organized the concept of good and bad, and then specifically, because that was consistent, how he applied it to individuals who were important in his life. Uh, which I think is probably something we'll find a lot as this study goes on. I've done another interview as well, although I haven't done all the work for that one yet, um, that produced similar results where um, the a lot of the inconsistencies and logical breakdowns are when it becomes personal, when family members are involved, in which suddenly their positions change. But in this case, all of those were on whether or not they can sad people or good people. And we're definitely less inclined to mark people as bad when it was their family members. Yeah.
Mm. Okay. So I'm assuming that the idea of good and bad was a large topic during your interview, or was that
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it definitely became a large one.
And essentially is that what inspired him to vote on certain things or like change? Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
so he expressed that as the his concepts of good and bad, which he is no longer religious, but it clearly comes from a religious background where good and bad is defined and like separated, measurable even. Um, he sees certain things as good and bad, financial responsibility from the state for its people, the health, the responsibility for the people's health, etc. Um, is good in his mind. And I asked him if he thinks it's good because he thinks so, and he's like, no, he thinks it is a objectively good. It just happens to be directed at like making sure the poor are fed, making sure everyone has health care, all that sort of stuff, which was interesting.
interesting. As anthropologists, I'm sure you thought this too, but like the concept of good and bad are very different depending on where you come
Yeah.
from, what religious and this and that. So that is very interesting.
Yeah, no. Again, I asked him a little bit on his background, his religious background, and it is um, non-denominational Christian, and his parents are conservative Christians. Uh, he radically disagrees with them on basically every political position at this point, which is a change in his life. Um, and the basis of those changes are what he sees as truly morally good or morally bad, uh, which is a big deal, which is fascinating. But he still wouldn't. I couldn't get him to say that they are bad people. I was able to get him to agree that not that I think they're bad people or not, but based on his logic, I could get him to agree that their behavior and the way they vote is bad. But then when I tried to say, so are they bad people? He would shy away from that, wasn't willing to apply that. And I think that's exactly the sort of thing that we were looking for the political interest surveys. But it came in a very different way than I expected, I'll be honest. Yeah.
Hmm. Well then, for my first question that I have written down, did you feel like you were able to meet the goals that were set by Dr. Caroline Rouse throughout the project?
Yeah, I certainly felt like, in terms of what she was interested in, I was able to find a logical inconsistency, specifically how he applied it, that in my other interview, I was able to do the same, relating to, eh, that one was a lot less consistent. I don't even know if I'm going to go through with that one. I wasn't super happy with it, how it turned out. But the the logical inconsistencies relating to good and bad was a big part of the first one. Uh,
Mm.
Not in how he applies it. Like he at no point said that what his parents did was good. Uh, in fact, he would say what they do is bad, but he was unwilling to make that step to apply bad to them. Whereas when I brought up other figures, he was happy to apply bad as a like a modifier to a person, who basically did the same thing as his parents, which was interesting. In your case, did you feel the same way? Like, felt like you were able to get what you were looking for?
I did. I found like multiple contradictions when he was talking, and I
Yeah.
reiterated what they were saying back to me. I'm like, just to make sure this is what you're saying, right? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, but earlier you said this. And they're like, yeah. And then at least with mine's very how do I explain this? He's a very masculine
Sure.
type of guy,
Machismo.
but yeah, and he kind of has to be because he's with all these, sex offenders and
Yeah.
an authority figure, and he does have to talk to them in a certain language, which we talked about too. Like he has to use kind of not derogatory terms, but like he has to just be very feisty, if you will.
Yeah, very strong on them. That makes sense within the atmosphere.
Yeah. So he was very strong on roles, and it kind of read through our
Mm.
entire interview because he was talking about the HOA prices being so high. It's Governor Newsom's fault. He needs to deal with it. And the whole, like, the homeless people getting moved, it's not his fault. It's the mayor's fault, like authority figure, which to a certain extent I understand. Um, but I was also wondering, okay, so we live in a democracy where people vote for these types of things, or like we can voice these kind of policy reforms.
Right.
But he said, which was also consistent throughout the interview, that he doesn't want to spend any mental like time or effort on those things. So he'd rather just not think about it. Like he consistently said,
Interesting.
yeah, he's like, I'm not going to worry about advocacy or this and that. Because one of the questions in the submission link that Dr. Rouse sent us had to do with advocacy, had to
Yeah, right, right, right.
the news outlets. So I asked him all those
I remember.
questions, and he's like, "Yeah, I don't really keep up with too many things like that. I do." He was saying that when he's interested in something, he looks for it. So I do think that also impacts the way that people think, right? Because your algorithm is what you look for. It's not going to
Oh,
be
absolutely.
outside of that. And he was aware of that as well. But it was this consistent concept of like there are roles that people need to fit, and if you don't fit in them, then you're not doing your job and it's not getting done. And this kind of like seeped into the whole idea of gender roles, authority roles, political roles. Um, but yeah, I just the whole concept of like it's not my like I'm not going to spend my effort and my time to think about these things.
And not his responsibility.
Not his responsibility. Yeah, not
Mm.
his role. So I'm not sure if you also maybe found something like that. Because
No.
a lot more like advocate. Like he's out there like
Yeah.
giving back to his community.
So he's mine was definitely a lot more active. Of my two that I did, the one that I'm going forward with for sure, was a lot more active in his community. He's volunteered in like homes and such, obviously, and then additionally he has participated in political activism as well. So he's clearly like taking his own efforts to try and better the situation as he sees it. Um, man, your guy sounds really interesting. Hmm.
Yeah.
I got a question on that. So, relating to roles, you were saying that roles were really important to him. Uh, was there any time that you were like he discussed where he broke with those roles where you could like get him to disagree with them?
Um, yes and no. Um, mm, Let me think really quick.
Yeah, it's a big question. Um, Might have been extra hard to kind of dig people out of.
Well, I definitely here, let me see. I'm gonna go to my color coordinating. Um, find the purple. Oh, okay. So the big one that we found or that I found were his finances. So
Ooh.
he kept complaining about how everything is expensive and how California and Newsom is not helping out the HOA because insurance policies are going up, this and that. And then he would continue to tell me how he loves to spend money and how he loves golfing and all these expensive hobbies. So, and then he, yeah,
Hmm.
which valid, I understand. But I think that was the one that I kept noticing because he would complain that he is spending too much money, but then he would say he doesn't want to worry about those things, right? Like he doesn't want to take the mental effort to worry about it. But then he went back and said that at the end of the month, when he looks at his monthly statements from his credit cards, like it does affect him. So I think that was the one that I had to reiterate to him too. I'm like, okay, so you just said things are expensive and that things are going up, yet you're not taking that precaution to kind of aid yourself. You're
Hmm.
digging yourself more in the hole.
That is interesting
Yeah.
because that shows he's clearly thinking about it, but not actually taking any preventative measure other than just kind of being vaguely annoyed by it.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah. And then definitely the he talked about Karen Bass's team. Oh, your free meeting will end in 10 minutes. Did you get that?
I didn't get that,
Okay,
so but we do have a limited recording time. So we'll use what we got. Heck it.
yeah. Okay, 10 more minutes. So long story short, he also talked about Karen Bass's team moving the homeless people and how
Right.
he was aware of the issue and the gap in the policy, yet he just was like, no, it's not that important. She's trying to do the right thing. The sex offender is being in the motel. It's fine. And I'm
Right.
like, but then to the general public slash community, is it actually fine that there are sex offenders in close proximities to, you know,
Uh, Potentially kids and all that.
potentially? Yeah.
Yeah, and just other people in general. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that is interesting. Okay, focusing on what we've got then. Um, so moving it forward from that to a growth stage. So a lot of this class 608 is focused on developing skill sets. That's what most interested me in this project initially, is I thought this would be a really interesting project to work on certain skill sets as an anthropologist. How do you feel you've been able to kind of grow as an anthropologist using these methods?
Yes. So I have interviewed people in the past, so I kind of took those interview methods into this because they did work for me. So the color coordinating, the uh what are those things called that I have in the corner of my
The
paper?
legend.
Thank you. Yeah, the legend. Those definitely helped me. Although I do have to have some or I want to critique myself really quick.
Hey, that's good.
Yeah, I definitely could improve for my next interview. I did find myself, I guess you could say tired. It was a morning interview and
Oh,
I work until like 3 a.m. on nights because I work at Dave and Buster's. We close at 1 a.m. It takes
oh,
an hour to close and then I drive back from Thousand Oaks. Anyway, so I go to sleep relatively late, but I woke up early, obviously, because this is important. But I do think that for future interviews, preparation, like self-preparation, is so incredibly important just so I
right,
can really have my head in the game. Um, the interview was flawless. I do think that I got all the data that I needed, although I do think it was informal towards the end. I found myself slacking because he is like a guy friend from work, right? So
right.
in a way, we started like, haha,
Yeah, it gets just a little bit more, not informal, I think is the right term. Not,
yeah,
I don't think it's bad, but it is informal.
yeah. So for future interviews, I would like them to be more formal since it is something that I would want to present. Yet, with that being said, I do think it also shows like how the realness of people,
Hmm.
right? Because like this is how he talks and this is how I talk. It's two regular civilians having a conversation about the political climate of the world.
I was gonna say, perhaps informality is not a negative when it comes to anthropology. Uh, I think about participant observation and the idea of us as anthropologists engaging with our field of study, our subjects of study directly and in their own life. So, like, how many people actually converse with each other and are honest with each other in interviews? Well, that's a good question. Like, a big question in polling is the honesty of the people being polled. And I think you are likely to get probably a little bit more honesty out of people in cases where it becomes a little bit more informal. As long as you're able to like get to the topics of information that are required, I don't know if that's a bad thing.
Thank you, Alex.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I was doing my transcription and I was getting to some parts and I'm like, I probably shouldn't put this in, but obviously I am. But
Yeah, I mean it's recorded, so
yeah, it's
it's what
recorded,
it
it's sent,
is.
it's there. But that's a good way to
Not,
look at it.
yeah, I think I think it's potentially a useful skill. Obviously, you need to be able to like delineate between still acquiring the information, but as long as the information is being like gained successfully and you're not like coloring the data, that sort of informality might be better for kind of loosening people up. I don't know.
You know what? You're right. As a disclaimer, we have 4 minutes and 52 seconds left.
Um,
What about yourself?
yeah, ooh, Uh, I think it gave me the ability to think about things a little bit differently. I have worked for an election before, and when I did that, a lot of these skills in the like the formal side, I was able to kind of get. And so the skill set that frankly I need to take from this and learn from this is not on the interviewing side, but on the data side, taking it and producing it into a like a useful collection of information. So writing the ethnography is the most difficult portion of this for me. Um, I'm not a cultural anthropologist in my core. I mean, I like cultural anthropology, but it's not my core. And so figuring out how to take the information and put it into something that is useful is going to be particularly where I think I can grow.
Mhm.
Um, and so the fact that we have to write what she describes as ethnographies for these individuals is useful in terms of getting more skills as an anthropologist, I think. You know.
That's good. Are you planning on doing the 3 years?
Yeah, like we've sort of talked about before, ultimately we'll see how fate decides what my life looks like in the next 3 years. But if I had my way right now, I would absolutely like to continue this. I've talked with my first interviewer or interviewee, interlocutor, whatever. Um, and I mean, he's down. He's interested in continuing the process. So, yes. How about you?
I am.
There you
Um,
go.
Yeah, for one, we've already been friends for a few years, so I do think we can be friends for a few more years. Also, what was enticing was the title of a research assistant that Dr. Yeah, so that would be also very nice. But I do think I have relatively well data collection skills when it comes to qualitative data. So, sorry, my cat is knocking on my door right now, but I'm ignoring her.
No worries.
Anyways,
Mine are asleep right now, so I don't have to worry
ah,
about them.
lucky. Mine is
Yeah.
awake and sassy. Um, but yes, I am.
Nice.
Mm.
I think the final one we can end on, just with our last couple minutes here, is if you could redo it, how would you, if you could?
First of all, I wouldn't go to a loud, packed restaurant. I was trying to
Yeah,
hear my voice recording. I'm like, what is happening? So definitely environment. Maybe add some microphones just so I can hear the voice a little bit better.
sure.
Um, Yeah, maybe a background research too on his job. That's what I'm doing now in the ethnography, just so I can get a better idea of what his life is like in California.
I
You know?
like that. That's a good idea. Oh
Um,
man.
yeah. So there's that. You got 1 minute and 20 seconds.
I'm stealing your idea. If I could redo it, I would do some research into the specific places that he's maybe I can still do that. I don't know.
Yeah, just like
I still got time.
yeah.
Do some research into where he does his puts in time and
Mm.
what political activism he's done. I myself have participated in political activism with him, so I know a little bit about that. But regardless, I think that's a good idea. I did do it in a quiet place.
Ah,
That was the ticket, which helped.
less than a minute.
Yeah, it helps. Anyway, with that being said, I think we have to call it because Zoom is determining its limit.
It is. I'm sorry, but that was the podcast for today.
Thanks very much.
Yay! But I
We
think
did
we
it.
learned a lot about this project for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to more.
Yeah, we are. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. But